Okay, good morning. I'm Pam Thomas. This morning, Ian Anderson is going to be presenting Mixing It Up, Mixed Materials. He will take your questions at the end, but feel free to type your question in the chat box at any time, and I'll be reading those questions at the end and we'll answer them. At first, we'll be taking questions about mixed materials, and then later on, we'll just take any general cataloging questions. So Ian, take it away.
Thank you, Pam. My name is Ian Anderson. I am a cataloger for the CMC, and I am going to talk to you about the process of cataloging mixed materials. The theme of this presentation is baseball. I had the opportunity to play baseball through the Champaign Park District summers of 1998 to 2001 and my senior year, 2005, at Champaign Central High School. I was also the team manager for 2 seasons after not trying out my freshman year. I have been a volunteer coach at Champaign Central High School since 2006, though the majority of the 2006 to 2011 seasons, I was attending college and graduate school. My primary job is scorekeeping. I have also done tasks such as filming, using a radar gun to measure hitting, pitching, and throwing velocity, and recording running times with a stopwatch. I am a lifelong fan of the St. Louis Cardinals. There are a few different resources that I referenced when creating this presentation, and most came from OCLC's bibliographic formats and standards. I will be happy to answer questions after the presentation. The records that I use for this presentation are the official Major League Baseball Fact Book 2001 edition, and the mixed materials record is about Bowie Kuhn, a lawyer and the 5th Commissioner of Baseball from February 4th, 1969 to September 30th, 1984. Important events during his tenure included supporting the induction of Negro League players in the Baseball Hall of Fame. The first was Leroy Satchel Paige in 1971, punishing players harshly for drugs and gambling, lockouts in 1973 and 1976, and strikes in 1972, 1980, and 1981, ruling that Hank Aaron had to play 2 of the 3 games of the Atlanta Braves opening series in Cincinnati in 1974, rather than sit out all 3 games, during the pursuit of Babe Ruth's home run record of 714 to break the record in Atlanta. The record was tied on April 4th, 1974 in Aaron's first at bat on his first swing, and broken on April 8th, 1974 in Atlanta off of Al Downing of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Curt Flood challenged the reserve clause to become a free agent after being traded by the St. Louis Cardinals and refusing to report to the Philadelphia Phillies on October 7th, 1969. He eventually played 13 games with the Washington Senators in 1971 after sitting out the entire 1970 season. The reserve clause was a clause in players' contracts that bound a player to a single team for a long period, even if the individual contracts he signed nominally covered only one season. For most of baseball history, the term of reserve was held to be essentially perpetual, so that a player had no freedom to change teams unless he was given his unconditional release. The case, Flood versus Kuhn, eventually reached the Supreme Court, March 20th to June 19th, 1972, ruled 5-3 in favor of Major League Baseball, with Lewis F. Powell Jr. taking no part in the decision due to owning stock in Anheuser-Busch, which owned the St. Louis Cardinals from 1953 to 1995. Arbitrator Peter Seitz ruled on December 23, 1975, in favor of the Players Association that players playing for 1 year without a contract were free agents, supporting pitchers Andy Messersmith and Dave McNally. Curt Flood was inducted in the St. Louis Cardinals Hall of Fame in 2015, along with Bob Forsch, George Kissel, and Ted Simmons. Bowie Kuhn was inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame in 2008. You have received materials to catalog, and you think that you have mixed materials. What do you do now? First, assess the materials to see if you do have what qualifies as mixed materials and not a kit. According to BFAS, mixed materials are collections of materials defined as two or more forms that are usually related by virtue of having been accumulated by or about a person or a body. These materials are not issued as kits since the intended primary purpose is other than instructional. This category includes archival and manuscript collections of mixed forms of materials such as text, photographs, and sound recordings. After looking over the definition of a kit and deciding that you do have mixed materials, it is now time to catalog these items. We will look at how this process is like and differs from cataloging a book. When cataloging mixed materials, there are similarities and differences versus cataloging other materials, especially books. This is seen most predominantly in the fixed field elements and the 300 and 500 fields. Fixed field elements include type of record, which is coded as a lowercase p for mixed materials. BLVL is bibliographic level, which is coded as lowercase c for collection. The 300 field is the physical description field. The 500 field is the general note field. We will talk about these fields and elements in the upcoming slides as we work through the process of cataloging mixed materials from start to finish. The fixed field elements in book catalog records contain specially coded information that identifies the materials being cataloged. This is an example of what the fixed field elements look like for a book catalog record. In this record, you see that the type of record dropdown or the format dropdown box is set to books. Type, kind of material, is coded as a lowercase a for books or language material. BLVL, bibliographic level, is coded as lowercase m for monograph. There are also fields for content of materials, illustrations, conference publication, festschrift, biography, and literary form. When cataloging mixed materials, the format drop-down box in the fixed field elements is set to mixed materials. Fixed field element type characterizes the type of material being cataloged. This field is coded as lowercase p, which is specifically mixed materials. Fixed field element BLVL indicates bibliographic level of the record, i.e. mode of issuance, relationship of component, part, etc. This field is coded as lowercase c, which is collection. Fixed field element CTRY indicates country of publication, etc. This field is coded XX since in this record no place of production is applicable in fields 245, 264, or in notes. In records for mixed materials, CTRY reflects the repository where the materials are assembled. If applicable, use production information or the imprint, field 245, subfield C, field 260 or field 264, or notes, 5XX fields to determine which code to use. Fixed field element ELVL indicates encoding level. This field is left blank following OCLC guidelines for full level records. You will no longer see certain fixed field elements that you may be used when seeing cataloging books. This is because these fields do not apply to mixed materials. The fields are content of materials, illustrations, conference publication, festschrift, biography, and literary form. Moving on from the fixed field elements, we will look at the 0xx, 1xx, and 2xx fields, and how mixed material catalog records are like books, and how these fields differ from book records. This is an example of the 0xx, 1xx, and 2xx fields for a book. Most of you are probably familiar with these fields already, so we will not go into detail on them. Many of these fields are reflected in mixed material catalog records, which we will look at next. 020 reflects any applicable ISBNs. 037 is the source of acquisition. 040 is the cataloging source. 043 reflects geographic area code, which is an aid to a subject approach to the item. 050 is the Library of Congress call number. 082 is the Dewey Decimal Call number. 049 is the local holdings, which is the local holding library for the item. 100 reflects main entry, personal name, which is the creator information. 245 is the title statement. 246 is the varying form of title, in this example, other title or spine title. 250 is the edition statement. Differences of note on the mixed material record versus the book record are: the 007 field reflects additional physical characteristics. We will discuss the 007 field in more detail in an upcoming slide. The 046 field reflects special coded dates, with subfield O being single or starting date of original release of the contents of a collection aggregation, and subfield P being the ending date of original release of the contents of a collection aggregation. For the 100 field, Bowie Kuhn is listed with the dates associated with a name, subfield D, and as the creator of the collection, subfield E. The 245 field title statement is where the title goes. According to BFAS, for archival materials, the title statement is defined as the name by which the material is known. In addition to the title and remainder of the title page transcription, the title statement may include inclusive dates, subfield F, and bulk dates, subfield G, pertaining to a collection. For archival materials with no bibliographic title, use subfield K as the first subfield when the form of material is the only title information. If your local system requires a subfield A as the first subfield, you may enter a form of material statement in subfield A. Use subfield K also to indicate form, even if a formal title is given in subfields A, B, and C. For this record, the form of the described materials is papers, subfield K, and the inclusive dates of the materials, subfield F, is 1932 to 1997. Looking at each of these records, we can see the similarities and differences that we just discussed. Similarities are that both records have 040 and 245 fields. A notable difference is that the mixed materials record has 007 and 046 fields. 007 pulls data directly from the fixed field elements. This element describes additional characteristics when multiple formats are present in a resource and access to the additional characteristics is deemed important. This record indicates a collection of materials in which the category of material to which the item belongs is unspecified, and the physical form of the item is unspecified as a collection containing different material categories. Next, we will discuss the description fields. The physical elements of mixed materials are reflected in the 300 and 500 fields and may vary based on the items within the mixed materials that you are cataloging. Mixed materials often have many notes within their catalog records. The 300 field, physical description, is where you will include the extent of the item and its dimensions. In this example of cataloging mixed materials, subfield F indicates the type of unit, such as a box, cubic feet, linear feet, page, or volume, relating to the extent of the item. This field is used only for archival and rare materials to identify the configuration of material and how it is stored. Repeat subfield F when alternate or additional forms of extent data are given. Record alternate forms of extent data in parentheses. According to BFAS, do not repeat subfield A if you are entering multiple number sequences. Enter multiple adjacent phrases in the same subfield A. However, repeat subfield A if subfield F intervenes. The 351 field, organization and arrangement of materials, contains information about the organization and arrangement of a collection of items, which for this record is the arrangement of the collection into 11 series. You can see here how the 500 fields expand on what is summarized in the 300 field within the same record. 5XX fields for notes included in this record. 506 restrictions on access, a note about the restrictions imposed on access to the described materials. For published works, this field contains information on limited distribution. 520 summary, etc. An unformatted note that describes the scope and general contents of described materials. Used for an abstract, annotation, review, summary, or a phrase describing the material. 524, preferred citation of described materials. A note about the format of this citation of the described materials that's preferred by the custodian. When multiple citation formats exist for the same item, record each in a separate occurrence of field 524. 540, terms governing use and reproduction. A note about terms governing the use of materials after access has been provided. Use for copyrights, film rights, trade restrictions, etc. that restrict the right to exhibit, fictionalize, quote, or reproduce. 541, immediate source of acquisition. A note about the immediate source of acquisition. Used primarily for original or historical items or other archival collections. Repeat field 541 for notes about the acquisitions of additional material in a collection. Use a separate 541 for each acquisition. For this record, subfield E is the accession number, the identification code assigned to materials acquired in a single and separate transfer of custody. 555, cumulative index finding aids. A note identifying the availability of cumulative indexes and/or finding aids whose only and major focus is the described material. 583, action note. A note about processing and reference actions, such as a brief statement about solicitation to acquire material. Whether the solicitation is active or inactive, and the date of the last item of correspondence. Use 583 also to record information about preservation actions relating to an item, such as review of condition, quaying for preservation, and completion of preservation. Standard terminology may be used in subfield A, and the authority for the terminology may be indicated in subfield 2. Repeat field 583 to record information about different actions. We will now look at the other fields that we have not discussed yet and how they may be processed differently when cataloging mixed materials versus cataloging a book. The next 3 slides will be covered briefly, and the various fields will be covered later in more detail. This is the book record with 6 5x fields for multiple subjects. The mixed material record, compared to the book record we just looked at, has many more 3 3x and 6 5x fields, as well as multiple 856 fields. On this slide, several screenshots of the record were included to show the 3 3x and 600 to 650 fields. This slide shows the 650 to 655 and 856 fields. This and the previous slide show how much detail goes into cataloging mixed materials. The 245 field is the title and statement of responsibility. Field 245 consists of the title proper and may also contain alternative title, parallel titles, or other title information. The remainder of the title page transcription and statements of responsibility. The title proper includes the numerical designation of a part section and the name of a part section. The 264 field, publication, distribution, etc., is information relating to the publication, printing, distribution, issue, release, or production of a work. The top screenshot is from the book we have been looking at, which includes a variant title and a spine title. The bottom screenshot is from the mixed materials record. For the mixed materials record, the 264 is used for the date or inclusive dates of a single manuscript or a collection. In the case of this record, the date is part of the title. The left screenshot shows the 33x fields from the book record we've been looking at, and the right screenshot shows the 33x fields from the mixed materials record. The 33x field, or content type, is the form of communication through which a work is expressed. The 337 field, or media type, reflects the general type of intermediation device required to view, run, play, etc., the content of a resource. The 338 field, or carrier type, reflects the format of the storage medium and housing of a carrier in combination with the media type. These fields are repeatable, and multiple content types should be recorded in separate occurrences of that field. As shown above, the book and the different items within the collection of mixed materials each have their own set of 336, 337, and 338 fields. Looking at the 6xx fields, the screenshot on the top is for the book, while the screenshot on the bottom is for the mixed materials. These screenshots reflect the numerous genre form terms found in the mixed materials with its multiple formats, while the book focuses on records and statistics. Subfield 2 is source of term, and for this record, LCGFT is Library of Congress genre form terms for library and archival materials. AAT is art and architecture thesaurus. The 856 field, or electronic location and access, is the information required to locate and access electronic resources, including online resources. Use field 856 in a bibliographic record for a resource when that resource or a subset of it is available electronically. In addition, use field 856 to locate and access a related electronic resource or an electronic version of a non-electronic resource described in the bibliographic record. Subfield 3 is materials specified. Subfield U is Uniform Resource Identifier, URI, which provides electronic access data in a standard syntax, such as a web address or Uniform Resource Locator, URL. First indicator 4 is HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and second indicator 2 is related resource, for an electronic resource related to the bibliographic item described by the record. For this record, there are URLs to the National Baseball Hall of Fame website for finding aids in the Bowie-Kuhn collection. Now that we have gone over the components of mixed materials records, these are some of the baseball materials that I have accumulated as a fan, player, and coach. These include plaques and team manager letters, 2003 to 2004 seasons, 2004 team photo, 2005 team photo, team poster, and varsity letter, a photo with my parents on senior day, a baseball signed by players and coaches, and a patch celebrating the 2005 Big 12 championship and school record of 23 wins. 2006 patch and bat signed by coaches and players celebrating Big 12 championship and school record of 30 wins. 2007 Charlie Dew Tournament championship team photo. Charlie Dew was the head coach from 1958 to 1985. A scorecard that I kept from a Cardinals-Cubs game, August 13th, 2010, which the Cardinals won 6-3. 2014 Regional Championship team signed baseball, first since 1993, and set the current record of 35 wins. Program, commemorative baseball, and team photograph from state fourth place finish in 2017. Another photograph given to me by my friend Christy Kaplan for my 30th birthday. Library of Congress magazine, July, August 2018. An album of baseball cards, a photo and signed baseball of Ozzie Smith, and a 2002 inductee into the Baseball Hall of Fame, thanks to my great uncle Robert Stewart, who met him on a golf course in Shreveport, Louisiana. These are statistics from summer 2014 to present using the I-score, indicated by the spreadsheet symbol, and Game Changer, the document symbol, apps saved to my Google Drive. This is a photograph of the 2020 seniors in uniform at Spalding Park that I received at the senior recognition event, August 16th, 2020, in memory of Drew Adams. Also included is the Team Drew shirt worn by players and coaches, which included Drew's father, Harold, for a Diamond Sports promotion tournament in Decatur, 4th of July weekend, where we finished with a 2-2 record. When compiling the information in this presentation, I relied most heavily on MARC 21 format for bibliographic data and OCLC bibliographic formats and standards. Other sources with valuable information include, but are not limited to, Bowie-Kuhn Collection 1932 to 1997, and an oral history interview with Curt Flood in St. Louis in 1967 or 1968 from the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Library of Congress collections with manuscripts, mixed material, which include collections such as Abraham Lincoln papers, Lewis Carroll scrapbooks, Clara Barton papers, and Elizabeth Cady Stanton papers, University of Illinois Library digital collections, and National Baseball Hall of Fame archives and collections. On the call today are Heidi Margold, Aaron Rose, Sherry Schuler-Faust, and Dr. Pamela Thomas. We will now take any questions that you may have as time allows. Thank you.
Hi, Ian. There are a couple questions, but hang on. Now, people can unmute themselves if they would like to ask their question. The first question, Don asked, should I add a 336 subfield A still image, subfield B STI, subfield 2 RDA content to a mixed record that contains photographs? Ian, did you want to answer him? I think you're muted.
Hi, this is Sherry. I can answer that. I think if you have actual photographs, I think you can add the still image to a record like this. I don't know if I would do it in a book record because you're basically describing the book, not images. I mean, so that's what I've been taught, but you do still see it a lot in, you know, like children's books where there are pictures. They will put that 366 still image, but I'm not sure that's exactly correct. I know there's controversy on that, but in a record like this, I think I would do it.
The mixed materials, yeah, that's
Yes.
what I said too. Yep. Okay, then Edie asked, since the collection included audio and video recordings, should there also be 007s and 33X and 34X fields for those formats, or is that encompassed by the fact that this is coded as a collection? Anybody? Or do we need to look that up? And it's okay if we need to look it up.
I mean, I think I can answer that as well. This is Sherry again. Yes, I do believe that those should be coded in there. I kind of think maybe the record he was showing was done a while ago, and so maybe those.
Oh, not updated.
Yeah, I don't think it was updated. I don't remember when it was the record he was showing done, but yes, I do believe that you should have the 007s and the corresponding 3XXs in the record if there's video recordings or sound recordings or whatever in it.
Right. Okay, and then Liz asks, and one can list multiple subfield A and subfield B subfields in the same 336 as long as they're from the same CV, correct? No, you're just going to want to have multiple 336 fields. You can have multiple 336, 337, and 338 fields, but you're not going to want to add multiple subfields, if that makes sense.
This is Sherry again. I'd like to add that any of those 3XX fields, like the 3X fields and the 34X fields, are now supposed to be in their individual lines. So you would not have the string, like in the 34X, you would not have a string of codes, even if they're in the same. It used to be that you'd just put subfield 2 RDA and you could have the whole string, but now each of those elements has their own. To be in a separate one, yeah, separate field. Thesaurus is not the right word. What is that word?
It's a separate field. Well, it's the it is the thesaurus. I mean, that's what the vocabulary.
It's the vocabulary. Yeah. So you are supposed to put any of those 33Xs to 34Xs in their own separate field. So you will have a lot of them. in
Right.
some cases.
Right. And that's okay. All right, so Edie said thanks, and Don said informative presentation, and then Liz said, okay, thanks. I was just going off of LOC, multiple content types from the same source vocabulary or code list may be recorded in the same field in separate occurrences of subfield A, content type term, and subfield B, content type code. Terms from different source vocabularies are recorded in separate occurrences of the field. Thanks for the clarification. So yeah, that separate occurrences is the important part in there. So they're telling you to create separate fields. Okay, did anybody else have any other questions about the presentation? Ian, could you pop up your last slide there with our contact information again? We are still looking for topics to cover next fiscal year. So if you could just email us. Erica says, thank you. This was informative both for mixed materials and baseball. Yes, it's always good. Yep. So the CMC at illinoisheartland.org. If you have any topics that you'd like us to cover next fiscal year, either August or September through next May. I haven't made a decision when we're going to start up. And we do have one final online with the CMC this fiscal year, meaning before June, and that is next month. Sherry's going to be doing Cheerios, Rice Krispies, or what's the rest of the title, Sherry?
I don't know, it's the name of some actual cereal.
Yeah, so it's about cereals cataloging. Oh, darn it. I hate it when things fly out of my brain. Hang on, I'll look it up because now it's just going to bother me. Cheerios, Rice Krispies, or the Directory of Overseas Summer Jobs. And that's going to be May 20th. So if you haven't registered in L2, please do so. And I'll be sending out the link to the recording either tomorrow-ish or early next week. Our IT staff have to do some minor editing and then they give us the YouTube link. So Alyssa, thank you for the great information. If nobody has any questions about this specific topic, you are more than welcome to ask a question about any cataloging topic that you'd like. And everybody has the power to unmute themselves and ask their question if you have a mic and if you are in a quieter environment, then please feel free to do that. Nobody has any other questions? Jennifer wants to know, what is the discussion on the 336 still images field? I had not heard of anything. Sherry, did you want to talk about that? You said there was some controversy about that.
Oh, just the controversy is that some people think that that because there's still images in the book, that you should code for that. And the other side is that if you're doing a book, what you're really coding for is the fact that it's text and it's unmediated. You're not coding for the fact that there's pictures in something. You're coding the object as a whole. So that was the controversy. And I just think that some people still do the 366 for the still image if there's pictures in the book, but I personally do not. But I don't get upset if it's there in a record, but I personally do not ever put it in if I'm making an original record. Because I don't think it, because the 33X is really supposed to be for what you, the thing as a whole, not just parts of it, if that makes sense.
So coding the fixed field and maybe having information in the 300 is enough? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I've probably been bad and added that 336 still image.
I mean, it's not
It's not
wrong.
wrong.
It never said,
Right.
never said definitively one way or the other.
Right.
It's just a philosophy, if nothing else.
Yep. So that might be one of those cataloger judgment things. So
yeah, which
is fine.
Which RDA loves.
They
love
do. Some of us just want some black and white rules to follow.
I like concrete things. RDA does not.
No, not so much. I mean, I like to have, you know, some flexibility on what I do, but yeah. Okay. Anybody have any other questions? Either about mixed materials or just cataloging in general? People are just saying thank you. You're welcome. Like I said, if you have any topics, then just email us. All right, I guess I will stop the recording and thank everybody for attending. And hopefully we'll see you next month. And sorry we had to